Welcome to episode 14 of Sport Oregon Voices. We're here at Providence Park in the heart of Soccer City, USA to talk all about the upcoming FIFA Women's World Cup being played over the next month in Australia and New Zealand. With the best players from 32 nations competing on the world's biggest stage, the United States will look to defend their 2015 and 2019 World Cup titles and bring home their 5th World Cup. I'm Michelle French, head coach of women's soccer at the University of Portland, and I'm joined by two fantastic, amazing former women's national team players and World Cup players, Shannon Boxx and Tina Frimpong Ellertson. You guys, I'm having a great time already being here with you. You guys played together, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we started in 2005
2005,
and
yep.
went through 2009. Yeah, so 2007 World Cup was our biggest kind of competition together.
And you guys, Shannon Boxx. I mean, when I first got on the team, she was the standard. When I think about USA, I think about holding mid, Shannon Boxx. I just got to be good enough to play alongside her. And it was a blast playing alongside her.
Yeah, and then I see Tina, who's just like can play any position imaginable. We literally put you in every position, I think.
Yep.
And then kind of but then we kind of ended up on that outside back just because you could just run up and down that field. And I just remember being like, who is this young kid who is just dominating? So it was really fun to play together. And then obviously she became a mom on the team. Well, was a mom already, and then became a mom again, right, too.
Yep.
And she was just one of the first. I mean, again, just knowing that we could do both. And then, when I ended up having my daughter in, 13 and coming back in 15, it was like, well, this is doable because of people like Tina, so.
Well, I mean, and obviously I got to do it in college. So, I mean, again, everyone's like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know college without having a little one with me. So I remember my first time being on the national team, and I didn't bring Mac first because I didn't know. I didn't know that there was what Joy Fawcett did, what Overback did to really make it so you can, raise kids and bring them with you. And our husbands were Mannies. We called him, my husband was called the Manny because he would come and watch Chrissy Rampone. So it just became a true family. And I'm so thankful that I got the opportunity to be a part of doing both, juggling both.
And especially Mac, because she was there for so many times. I mean, I remember Portugal, just having so much fun with her. But obviously then going to college, I followed her all the time because I was like, how is she part of my family at this point? So it really is. The national team is definitely a family environment.
Absolutely.
So incredible careers, World Cup members, and you also played here at Providence Park a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
I retired here at Portland. So 2013, we won the whole thing. And
WSL champion in the house.
Yes. But for me, that was like, okay, I can hang up my boots. I want to have another one. But yeah, just this atmosphere, like the Thorns, and obviously it was like Cindy Parlow, I think, was the head coach at the time. We had Alex Morgan. I mean, we had a squad. Sinky's been here since the beginning, and to go and win it that first year was pretty special. And we really think that it elevated soccer here and really put us on the map and said, hey, just how we feel the stands, the atmosphere, the quality of soccer that we brought. Just proud to be a part of the first of it, and love seeing where it's going. I mean, it's taken off.
Yeah, I just think that the environment here and the support that it's gotten has been so different than anywhere else. Yeah. I played for Chicago Red Stars, and coming here to play and be the opponent. Right. It was really fun for me. I actually like being in environments where it's like everybody's against you, but it was the only stadium that's packed. We were getting 200 people to our Chicago Red Stars games, and you come here and the entire stadium is completely full. So this environment, this team is like the standard of what the NWSL should be like. And then was like, okay, hey, it's showing. Okay, now Angel City is like, well, that's what we are going to follow, And so I think it's amazing, and a lot of it comes from the community.
Yeah, and you touched a little bit on Angel City, obviously one of the expansion clubs going into the second year. And I think one of the cool things about the environments at Angel City, but also obviously here in Portland, you've got tifos that are getting raised, you've got chants that everybody knows. You talked a little bit about the environment, but just when you walk out and you see the tifo going up, you hear the consistent chants throughout the game. And whether you are a player that's a part of the Thorns or an opponent, how does that add to the energy of the game?
The best experience. I mean, I sit here and think, obviously I'm not playing anymore, but I got to play at one of the best platforms, environments, experience ever. I think, in the world. They always showed up, and just all the little things of like the tifos you're talking about, but just the people behind it. You look at their faces and you see their excitement, and you're scoring a goal or you're denying a goal, and they're like right there with you. It's just, it's such a push. It just makes you feel that you're a part of something special.
And it's important because we're professional athletes. Like, and we're finally treated as professional athletes. And I think that this environment and this leadership allowed the women who played here to feel like true professionals. And it wasn't that we're grateful. This was supposed to happen. It was necessary. And I think what I'm seeing is that it's just continuing to grow. And this is, I mean, every time I talk to a player that plays here is like, this is what it's supposed to be a professional athlete. And that is the standard, and we want to just keep improving that. And so, yeah, I don't know. I take my daughter to the games, and this is all she knows. So she's like, oh, this is how, like, oh, it didn't start like that. Like, it is improved, and we're always moving forward. And I go, just remember that when you get to be an adult, you know, and or if you're playing or whatever you're doing, like, keep moving the standard, you know, higher and higher. So,
I love that. Love that.
And you talk about the passionate fans, and a lot of those passionate fans in the stands here at Thorns games are young kids, and specifically young girls as well. With you guys both having daughters, what is the idea of being a role model, making an impact on their lives, kind of as they watch these incredible athletes in front of them?
I mean, for me, it's just see it to believe it. You know, I talk about that a lot. I mean, I think with us, we talk about race a lot too, like the diversity that now is existing in the soccer world. For us, when we were starting to play in 05 and 07, like, were we the only ones? Like, you know, it was like, okay, let's stick together because there's not, but like now you're seeing that. And I think for me, at least with both of my kids, son and daughter, it's like you're now seeing and saying, you're seeing representation happening on the field. And that's so important.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, Mac, I always say her childhood was one of the coolest, just because she would knock on the door and see, Shannon, you want to play with me? Abby, do you want to? And so it's just having those women be the example. And I feel like how tangible it is and more accessible it is for our young women to be at these games, to have like a little bit more access to the women that are doing it. I mean, my idols growing up were Jack or Johnny Kersey, right? Track stars.
Yeah.
And that, like, those that looked like me. And so I'm just so grateful for the access and the visibility that is now just giving the picture of, man, I can like see it, believe it. I can actually really do this. And so our kids got to have a little bit more of a front row seat. But I feel like, you know, it's the platform's really growing so that more and more young girls are getting the opportunity to really see it, and like week in and week out. Like, how cool is that?
That's the cool thing.
Like, so I think the '99 World Cup was what, like, I remember me and my sister being like, we were just like, this is awesome. And the fact that, you know, like, girls get to be around that like every week is with the NWSL here, and with, you know, the Thorns and the rain and just the atmospheres, and like obviously ACFC, it's like it's really, really cool, the access, I feel like.
And I think what really funny story is, like, I was in high school in '91, and so I knew of the women's, you know, national team because of my head coach was a female, and so I thought that was amazing. But the only way you couldn't watch it, like, you couldn't watch the '91 World Championship. It wasn't even called the World Cup, and I ended up coming back and getting VHS tapes, and like it was so grainy and trying to watch it, but like that was the only chance I had of seeing women at the highest level, and now it's, you know, every weekend.
Every weekend.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I have a couple years on you. I remember '91. I remember '91 as well. And I was just telling a story the other day. I had they're like the poster up on the wall of the '91 World Cup champions, and it was like, I remember, you know, talking to Amy Griffin, like players that were part of it, and it's just like, yeah, we got back from we walked into the airport, no one was there, no one knew what we did, and it's just like, I don't even know how I found out. It was probably like a little blurb in like the sports section, if even that. So it's incredible. Like, I think '99 is so prominent in everyone's mind, and I think only
of that switch, right?
So some of us are just like, no, they actually won in '91, which is actually pretty cool.
Well, and I got to work alongside Amy in college,
Yes.
so she always reminded us.
Hey, don't forget, I know more than you.
I mean, she had pictures everywhere. She had the VHS tape, and so I feel that like I really got a good little picture of it. But you guys are so right when it comes to just wasn't televised. It wasn't. We didn't have the access to it. So.
So I was fortunate to be part of the 2000 Olympic team and part of the 2015 coaching staff for the World Cup and then the 16 Olympics. And Boxy, you have 3 gold medals, been to 4 World Cups. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between the Olympics and the World Cup?
I mean, obviously the Olympics were amazing. When you're a little kid, that's what you dream about doing. You know, I want to go to the Olympics. It's what's on TV all the time. And there wasn't a World Cup for women. So it holds a special place. I love the idea of being in the village and there's just all these athletes from all these different countries. And sometimes, you know, it was important for us to win, but there's so many athletes that are in there, and just that it was an honor just to actually make the Olympic team. I mean, such a small percentage of people. But the World Cup is all about soccer. And it's more teams are involved, so it's a harder competition than the Olympics. And it is just, to know that the entire world is watching only soccer, it's pretty special. So to finally get one in 15, I think we were so close in 11, was a great way for me to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about your experience, Tina?
Oh, I mean, the World Cup, I mean, that was like, as a kid, that's the stage. That's where you want to go and play. That's where you want to end up. That's where you want to showcase. That's where you want to be. And so in 07, when we got there, I was just, oh my gosh, I made it here. And I mean, obviously just the team that we had and just, you know, playing alongside some of the best players in the world. It was a great experience. I got humbled a little bit, played against Marta. Remember that game?
Oh my goodness. Well, we all remember that. Remember, I got kicked out of the game, so.
Did you really?
I got a red card.
For what?
Well, this is a really terrible story.
I'm going to remember once you tell it, but just remind me.
You got to go back because there's a video. But anyways, I got a yellow at one point. I was like, okay, fine, no big deal.
Yeah.
But then it was a corner kick, and we were running back. Yeah, running back on defense. And Christiane, I think, tripped me from behind, but fell over me. And so the ref didn't see it, but she's had something go into her ear, I probably saying like someone gets a yellow.
Yeah.
And because I was behind her, I got the other yellow, which turned into a red card, and I got kicked out. And I was so mad. I was like,
We all were mad.
we all were, because I mean, then it's obviously now the team's playing a man down.
Yeah.
We're getting crushed.
Against the
best team, Brazil.
And that's when Marta was really like, okay,
Yeah.
here, I'm Marta.
Yeah. It just was scoring goals left and right. Yeah. So it was like, I go back now and I've seen it, and I'm like, it actually shows it. Like, it's crazy.
Bad
So,
call. But I
bad
think, to be
call.
honest, like I always say, like every World Cup prepares you for the next, right? And I feel like we learned so much that
learned
World
so
Cup
much that
about ourselves, about our team.
Yeah.
So for me, like that was an experience. Like I always feel like playing on the national team, you're still a part of it, even though you're not playing. Like what I did in my time, my small time, was important to make the team be what it is today.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know, and maybe I'm just being a little.
No. And that's the thing. I mean, it's 23 players. I don't even know what it was then. It was 21 probably. But like, it's a small group of us. And like, it takes every single person. Every day of training is so hard and so intense. And if it wasn't, the starting lineup wouldn't have been prepared. So, you know, I think it just makes sure, I mean, I was in that position in 15, and I don't take it any less that I wasn't on the field and we won. I'm like, hell yeah, I won.
Playing in a World Cup. Sorry, like again,
we won a World Cup. Like I know I was part of that. So it doesn't matter if you're on the bench or not.
Right. And I think that kind of pushes us into a next really important question that I have for you guys. Like, what is going to be the importance of the veterans on this World Cup squad? I mean, you've got Alex is older, still a starter. You know, you've got UP alum Megan Rapinoe as a veteran as well. Like, talk about the role that they will play, whether on the field or off the field, that you think is really going to impact the success.
I mean, I know for me as I was a younger player playing, and so the veterans are everything. I think that, like, I especially believe, I mean, when you're wearing that crest, you're always looking to keep that standard high. And so to have the people who have been through it, who've been through, you know, a World Cup, been through an Olympics, been through the tournament, it's tough, it's grueling. And so I think that those players are the ones that are going to keep it moving. Those players are going to one that's going to remind them of what we're striving towards, and they're going to be able to lead by example, but also like vocally, and just it's the side conversations that are important. It's the, you know, it's not just on the field as well. So I just think that the veteranship is, I know that I leaned on it a ton when I was in that experience.
And just being part of both. I mean, when I was 03, I was the young one, and then there's the veteran players like Lil and Julie and me and all of them. And then to have the next step, in 15, where I was more of a veteran, I was more of a vocal leader. It's going to be so important. I love that it's a mix. It always seems to have been that in the national team. There's that veteran, then there's young, and you need the energy of the young ones and the freshness, and like, because every time it definitely matters, but it's like, okay, yeah, like Alex, I think that intervention, oh, thank you for having me again. And I'm like, when she got told she made it, and I'm like, that's such a perfect answer, because it's like, yeah, she's been there, but like, she needs the young first timers to be like, this is amazing,
Yes.
and like it's my first time, and that feeds off of into her as well. But then to go the other side of when things might not be going perfect, you need the voices of Megan and Alex, and I think that's just going to be so important for them, especially this time. And like right now, they're doing all this media and all this crazy fun stuff that really has nothing to do about winning. So at some point, those veterans are going to be like, this is all great, but we have to win, and it doesn't matter if we don't win. So, I think that's so great that you're going to have a mix of both.
Yeah, and I think even want to give Kelly O'Hara some props because I believe this might be her 5th World Cup that she's going to. It might be. If not, it's her 4th. You're like, no, it's not.
Is
but
it 4th? No. 3rd.
Regardless.
We're going to figure it out.
Regardless,
at some point.
To the point of the veterans, it's like when she got her phone call, just tears.
I get
tears,
tears,
right? And it's just like, that's how much it means. It's not just like, oh, I made another World Cup team. Like, it matters. It really matters intrinsically.
And I mean, she's coming back from an injury,
Yes.
So like, I could see why she'd get so emotional. She was just grinding and pushing and wanting this. And I think that's just so great for young kids to see that, like you said, she's been there, she's done it, but she's still working. Like, it's funny, you see all these young kids and they're like, oh, I'm already so good. And I'm like, you can get better. Like, and it's constantly having that mentality. And like, that's these players. They're not ever satisfied with where they're at. They want to always get better and improve. And I think it's so great to see that.
And what do you guys think about the variety of roles that actually get played within a team? Because when you go to a World Cup, there's, you kind of have coaches have an idea. This is probably the starting group the majority of the time, or like when push comes to shove, these are the players who want on the field. And you've got players 18, 19, 20, wherever the roster is at now, right, that are there for a specific purpose. And that might be who they are as a person and the kind of teammate they are. It might be they might be really good in the air. Can you talk a little bit about how those roles really need to be embraced in that environment?
Well, I know for me, like I was going to be the shutdown defender. Like I knew that was my role. Like I was the one that was going to have to match up against some of the top. And whether I came off the bench, so that I knew that was going to be my role as well. But just knowing that, like that's what I brought. I just feel like it just you step into your role, and once it's clearly defined, you just go out there and you just get it done.
Yeah.
And I think that every single player on the U.S. Women's National Team has a mentality that's insane. That's what I've always loved about playing on that team was you're looking to your left and your right, and I'm with Shannon Boxx playing in a 5v5, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, here we go. You know what I mean? It's like there's just a standard that you have to rise up to, and it pushes you and it gets you better and it makes you to be what you want to be. But I just know that the roles that are played within the team are so important because I know it, the person to my left knows it, and so we're all bought into it. And so like when I'm stepping on, they're like, okay, Tina, you're stepping Mark to today. That's like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or Boxx, we need you to be a crush, hands down, like just lock everything up in the middle of the park. So it's everyone can be on the same page, and it just keeps everybody, I think, kind of really aligned. And
100%.
And there's no rule that's this is me, this is my personality, but no rule is more important. I mean, I think that they're all that important because if we all like really, really like sit into it and lean into it, we win.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's the collective group. I think it's the collective mentality. And if you don't have that, like at some point it's going to break down. So I love that question because I think it's so important for the coaching staff to communicate really before the tournament starts. This is your role because then you can actually buy into it, like you said, and actually fulfill that role. And if everybody does their role to the best of their ability, we win. We all win. And it's like, okay, if one goes rogue and they want to, score more goals or whatever, that's great. But if we still lose, because we all lose. So I think if you have that collective mentality, and I think the U.S. does a great job of that. And you're right. There are players that are on there that probably won't play as much, but they play a specific role that they are great at getting the group going, or in hard times, they can calm the team down. It might be that role, and that's just going to be just as important. So, yeah.
We talked a little bit about the veterans. Let's talk a little bit about the young stars. Obviously, one being Sophia Smith, who is on a tear right now. She had her little dip, but now she's like scoring hat tricks and owning Providence Park whenever she's here. You've got Trinity Rodman, who's exceptionally exciting as well. You guys want to talk a little bit about the youth on the team and what they're going to bring?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best piece that I saw in the last week was the picture with Abby and Sophia. And that is like literally it. She was this young girl who loved soccer and literally looked up to the players that played on the national team. And then here she is doing the same thing, giving so much to the next generation as well. And I don't know if that separates women from men. I don't know why. I feel like we're very like journey in the whole picture, right? It's not just about in the moment. And so, but Sophia is just ridiculous. She's amazing. She has so much talent. She's not afraid to get crushed. She's not. She's fast. She has skill. She has the whole package. And I'm actually kind of happy she did the little dip because you can't stay on top the whole time. And I was like, go ahead, dip, then relax, and then let's go back up. And I think she's able to do that. And then Trinity. You know, just watching her and obviously being in broadcasting now, I'm even seeing more stuff and I'm hearing the conversations with the coaches and players. And she's young and she's just, leaning on her athletic ability, but her skill, and she's willing to grow. And, Vlatko gives her instructions and she goes out and tries to do it. And I love that about her. And that's what's going to just propel her for years and years, because she's willing to take whatever criticism or instruction or information and apply it then in the next game. And she may be starting in this World Cup, so really excited for her. She's just got good head on her shoulders and doing well.
I love how open Trinity is. I think she's an open, like you're saying, like how she wants to grow, how she wants to get better. I mean, you guys, Sophia Smith. I mean, from from half dribbling, she's unreal. Just on the dribble, I feel like she's gonna put a ton of fear in a lot of these teams' minds, right?
I mean, that whole front line and
subs.
Right. Can you imagine, Lynn Williams, if she just comes in off the bench? I would be like, dang it. I'm like, I cannot keep up. I'm exhausted.
Had to get a break. So I'm really excited to see what the young blood is gonna do and how they're gonna contribute and how they're gonna help us.
I think they're gonna contribute a lot. Yeah.
And I think when you talk about Soph, Trinity, those younger players, they have come from the league, and obviously majority of them from college as well, where they've been that top player. And I think it's always easy to look at, we're talking about players that play on the front line that score goals and do all these amazing things, but I think one of the things that both Soph and Trinity and the younger players have to learn is the importance of the defensive side of the ball, because that really hasn't been asked of them as much. And so what part does that play? Because we always talk about goals. We always talk about assists or something flashy that they do.
You're talking about two defenders, so we
well, I am too. That's why I brought it up. Let's talk about defending.
Let's do that. Well, because, defense wins games in my mind. So I agree. I think you got to defend as a team, and that was kind of the one piece with Trinity. I think she's been asked to defend more and not to switch off, and she's doing a better job of that. So. And then you look at our back line now without Becky, obviously being here at Thorns, and that leadership, and it's tough. And Vlatko did a really good job of making sure the other two played together, Germa and Alana Cook, to make sure that they feel comfortable. But it's the voice part of it. It's the leadership part, and they're going to maybe have to do it collectively now.
And where does JJ fit in that, Julia? It's like, where does she fit in that as well?
She could go back there. That's what will be interesting to see. That's a great point.
Well, I just remember, I think, when Abby was like, okay, I'm going to defend, and do you remember how that changed our team? Yeah. I just, as a front player, just her relentless, and I feel like that was when I feel like front runners really were like, okay, I've got to, and don't get me wrong, we all know that's, but I just remember for a national team, I feel like Abby was really the one that really showed us that if we have a front runner that's pressing, making it predictable, forcing to a side, it makes it so much easier, winning it higher up the field. Yeah. And so I just know that that's just something that, I love that Trinity's kind of getting that on board. I feel like when I think of us, USA, we make it really, really hard.
Yeah.
We make it really hard for players.
High press. We're always talking about that, right?
Of course.
Hey, who does high press? Well, the forwards.
Who starts it? That's right, you do.
Yes, you do.
But then you got to sell it. If you press, you win the ball high up the field, we score goals. Yeah. You get to score the goals. So it's great. It's a win-win.
I got two coaches here. It's
I know. Let's talk a little bit about the group stage for the U.S. We've got Vietnam, Netherlands, and Portugal in that order. What do you have to start thinking about in terms of those games?
Well, obviously that middle game is going to be your hardest game, and that's going to probably be the decider of first and second. So, you got to make sure, probably both teams are going to win the other two games. So maybe how many goals you score is going to be important. Mm-hmm. How many you don't give up is going to be important. And then obviously just figuring out when you rest and when you
Yes.
don't. So you're probably going to get that good starting group in there because the first, it's the beginning of the World Cup. You need them to play together. You want them to get these goals, but then you're going to try to get other players in there so that those players can rest too. But then still not give up anything. And the great thing about the U.S. is we're so deep.
Yes.
So I'm very confident in that.
Yeah.
No matter who goes in, we should be winning games. And I say we, like I'm still there.
Hey, you know,
Don't say we.
part of it.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be kind of the thing for Vlatko is to be very specific on how they really want to play this. And obviously you've been there. You probably have those all down, right?
Well, the conversations that the coaching staff will have, ongoing. Like even within the Vietnam game, like, okay, well, who do we need to start to rest? Like, who needs to get a little bit more confidence and let's play her a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Who are we going to need to use in the third game for sure? Or, it's just like there's always a conversation going on in terms of who's going to be playing. But I think to your point, like that second game is going to be tricky because on paper, that should be for first and second, but then it's just going to be like, okay, well,
Still have another game.
Yeah, we still have another game, and that, there's always an underdog story for teams that play against the U.S. that play their best game against us.
That's actually a great point.
It'll be interesting. So, Tina, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you guys kind of covered it. So, it's just taking care of that second game. And I just think it's also getting the team played in and gelled. I feel like that's the most important too, making sure that you're aware of that as well.
And being like aware of your players, and obviously they know their players so well, but it's also there's a confidence in playing.
Absolutely.
Like I never wanted to come off the field,
Yes.
and it kept me going.
Well,
and
of course, Boxy.
Of course. But that's what every player is on there.
Absolutely.
And I get that the coaches know they got to come off, but it's like sometimes there's a mental piece to it too of like, wait, why did I come off? And so it's just communication and making sure that the coaching staff is really talking to the players to be like, Pia did a great job. I'm sitting you this game. It has nothing to do with anything. And I was still pissed.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're aware with your players.
We all love you, Boxy. That's the compete. That's the standard that we all rely on.
What does off the field look like for them right now? And then as the World Cup goes on, like, are you hanging out with your family? Are you like sightseeing? Or is it like we are locked in? I am in the training room. I am in the meal room.
I locked in, right? I mean, I know, don't get me wrong. I think it's evolved on, because friends and family would come on their own, right? And then we'd be going on our own. But I just felt like it was a time for us to really just plug into each other. Like you create that bubble and you're all about to the person to your left and right, your team. I think Hyphus used to do, we used to have game nights. Remember those?
We had that room that you can just go in and just play different games
and just
hang out together, right? Because you're always in your room. So this was just like an empty space, like a lounge that you can.
And it's like the team we've always been characters. Like there's people that are going to be doing pranks, right? I mean, Heather Mitz was the prank queen.
Yes, she was. Yes, she got me involved in that sometimes. I remember that. We got Hager Reese really good one time.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
That's a story for another time, but I'd love to hear it.
Love to hear it. Yeah, I think for me, from what it was, at least when I was in, it's just you create the bubble. Yeah. And it's just all about just getting focused and again, finding time to let loose and have fun and be together. But it's just getting ourselves ready for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that time right now, right, before the actual tournament starts, I think that's a really big moment of just really gelling because no one's around. It is actually great because family isn't around yet and you're not really dealing with the sights and stuff, but it's a time to really bond and because it is just you guys. I think once the tournament starts, it is, I think the U.S. has always kind of been like, we want a balance. We want balance. Like, it's never like, I think Pia was like, woof, and we were like, we need a break, can't talk soccer all day. But, so I think it'll be important during this World Cup especially that they have access to their family because I think sometimes it grounds people, especially if they're having a hard time or maybe they're not playing and they thought they were supposed to. And so there's support. You need support no matter what, right? And you have your teammates' support, but they're all focused on themselves and what they can bring. So it is nice to kind of have the balance of friends and family around. To be honest, support from back here is going to be huge too. They're going to feel it and see it. Social media helps with that. That was a big thing, in 2011. I remember when social media kind of just started and it was like when we were like, oh my God, Obama's watching us. It was kind of like you recognize you're playing for your country.
Right.
And not just this little bubble. You're playing for a lot bigger. And that was always fun for me too.
Right. And you talk a little bit about social media, which is interesting because you think of 2019. I mean, the platform, the stage, the issues going on, what the team was dealing with, and to still be successful and win is incredible. And now it's like, okay, well, is that even multiplied even more? Now that the social media is even bigger, and now these players have even bigger voices and bigger platforms and bigger brands. I mean, so many different things are different now. So how do they stay off of social media, but still, I think, bring to the forefront what's so important to them, similar to what they did in 2019? How do you balance that?
We didn't have to deal with it.
I was going to say, 07,
didn't have to
we
deal with
were not dealing with that. I think it was like, we were still being in VHS tapes and trying to see. We all meet in one room and watch a show. But I think that, social media, I think of Pino and I think of some of these players, they're well prepared. Right? And I know that there's going to be the young ones that are, but I think that when I look at like the 2019, they learned a lot when it comes to being like the voice and how to navigate it and how to manage it. So I think of like Morgan. I think that they're well prepared to deal with it because we've seen so much in it. So that's kind of my take on it. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be something that's going to be thrown.
Something, of course,
right?
always.
But I like to think that our women, and especially with the NWSL, especially with the week in, week out, like I feel like that the social media piece is something that they're getting well trained in. They've learned their lessons. They've had maybe, I shouldn't have probably said that. And you know what, okay, I'm going to think before I do this, or I'm going to put my phone away.
And that's where the veterans, again, having Pino, having Alex, who are very good on social media to help the younger players. They all need to recognize that the game is the most important too. You know, this is the time. And so to use social media for the good, but like also understand like this is what's first and foremost. And to be honest, I always state like if we don't win, some of those things don't mean as much, right? And in my mind, that's how I have always seen it. So like even when they were fighting the CBA and all of that stuff, I'm like, they have to win. Like I was so committed to them like being like, you gotta win, like because then you have so much more power to get what you need on the outside.
Absolutely. What is it that you guys just in general are excited for in terms of watching the World Cup? I know Boxy, you're gonna head there soon, and be over there as a fan. You're not having to kick your feet up. You're not having to listen to all the mental tapes, getting ready for games. Like, I just said tapes.
You did
it's
say
like a
tapes.
Totally just
It's a whole other beast because like the amount of prep that you have to do to like all the teams you got to understand and know, isn't it? Like isn't it hard?
I don't have to do it though.
Oh.
I'm going for fun.
Just going for fun.
I thought that she was going in commentating.
No, I'm
So
going for fun.
what are you excited for?
I'm taking Zoe, my daughter. So, you know, she was on the field in 2015, but she was a year and a half. She doesn't remember it. She sees pictures, and I'm like, you don't remember it. She's like, but I do. I'm like, because of the pictures. So I am so excited. She's 9 years old. I think it's perfect. She'll remember this whole thing, and she's just so into the girls, especially Sophia's here, you know, and you have different players that she's been able to see, and I'm just excited to see it through her lens. And just really, like, I think the U.S. can win it 3 times in a row. Like, who does that, right? And so we're going to go for the group games. I'm just really excited to be there with her and let her experience this and, you know, see what she, you know, this is what women's soccer is now, so.
I mean, this is my favorite time of the year, you guys. Like, I get to sit on my couch and watch the best players in the world. It's my favorite, you guys. And, you know, I think the time slate for when these games are going to be aired here, it's like in the evenings, I believe, right? Rich, you were talking about that?
I think it's
so it's
6 p.m. the first couple games.
6 and midnight.
So just going to stay up late, have some late nights, and just enjoy seeing these women compete. And again, like to win 3 would just be phenomenal. And I remember I brought Mackenzie with me to Canada in 2015 to watch you guys win it. And I'm like bawling. And Carly's just like, I'm like, what was this really happening from half? But I just remember looking at her and she's just like, yep, this is what they do. This is what US does. And so it's just cool to see that, like you're talking about Zoe get experience for the first time. There's been so many young women who've got to see them actually just and have the vivid memories of them getting it done. And just feeling like, oh, I want to do that one day. Oh, that's going to be me, or I want to strive to that. So I'm looking forward to just curling up on my couch and watching some great soccer for the next
It's
month.
not just the U.S. I mean, we get to watch all these teams,
Well, and to that
right?
point, like we in the room, we all feel like the U.S. is like the favorite. Let's go, come on, let's win it 3 in a row. Who do you guys think? Just one team that could pose a problem?
I mean, I would say England. You know, obviously we lost to them, you know, in 2022, and they've lost some players, unfortunately.
right.
So that may change it, but every team is just getting so much better. But they were kind of a team that I was like, okay, they've really changed and adapted and really have their own style that is really dominant.
Well, and we can't sleep on Canada. Didn't they just win in an Olympics?
Yeah.
So, and I'm always rooting for Stinky, right? And that crew, and they're our friends up north. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see kind of what they're going to do.
I hope they do well too. Yeah. That's all this stuff that's happening there too.
I'm impressed you guys could pick one. I really tried to nail you down to pick one, and you
did.
did.
You
guys
told
did it.
me.
Yeah,
We
I
actually-
know.
we followed
You did a great job.
instructions,
You did.
Frenchie.
I know. You did a great job. You did a great job.
Who's yours?
See, I was like, ooh, I actually, England is going to be one for me that I think is going to be tricky. But depending on how kind of the group phase plays out, we could play Sweden in the quarterfinals, which has always been a bit of a stickler for the
Yes,
US in
they
big
have.
tournaments. So
That's a great point. They are the one. They're like the thorn.
They are.
See,
Yeah.
did that?
A nice pun there. Throw it to the side. I like that. I like
We
that.
handled them in 07. I remember that game.
We did. Yeah, we crushed them. Those highlights just came out too, and I was like, oh yeah, we crushed them.
I have two final questions for you guys. One being, can you be a fan, or do you start to get really competitive and go into player mode when you're watching?
Oh, it took me a little bit, but I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Fan because I go, oh, I could do that. And I'm like, no, I can't. I can't do any of that anymore. I mean, even I was here Wednesday night and I was like, I miss soccer. I miss playing. And then I was like, but I couldn't do any of that anymore.
I think for me though, it's like, I mean, obviously seeing you play, like in 2015, watching you play, I played with her. Okay, like there's a little bit more of the competitive because you know you played with a lot of these players, but now that as you know the team's kind of changing and those, you really become like, okay, I'm a fan.
But what I would say the emotional investment has not changed.
I love that. It's great.
I mean, I remember in 16 they lost. I was bawling, and Aaron's like, I didn't, and I was like, I just know how much it means. Like
That was brutal.
It
That
was brutal. Like it was so brutal. So like I think my emotional investment is so there over what I think a fan could ever feel. So
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, good point.
Okay. Last question. Tons of experience here. Off the field advice you would give players as they head into this incredible opportunity ahead of them?
I would say, I always said this to myself and to others, but I said, turn your brain off. Have fun, be in the moment, enjoy the process. Because for me, I always wanted to know how it went. I was like, oh, I just want to know the end result that we won. And I'm like, but this could be my only World Cup. And enjoy the process. And then I said, like, turn your brain off because they have done the work. Their bodies know what they should be doing. Now, I'm not saying be dumb and don't make mistakes like that, but turn your brain off and just like let it go. Let the stress go. Just go out and play. You know what you're doing. And yeah, that's the thing.
Well, and mine was my only World Cup. So it's like, I love that you say that because the 07 was the one World Cup I got to play in. So being present, right? Be present, be bought in, and just, just give everything you can to it. It's what you give. I believe it's what you give that makes things a cool experience. It's not what you get, it's what you give, so.
I love that a lot. Okay, I have a question for you though. Can we finish?
Wow, okay.
I've been wanting, you asked a long time ago, but you have now been a player and a coach.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference? And like, just obviously the obvious difference, but like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really gaining an appreciation of what's going on behind the scenes. Because as a player, it is very much like, don't get me wrong, it is very team focused, but you're also kind of what you guys were talking about, like, why am I not playing? Like, do I get to play the next game? Is this all I'm gonna do is sit here? Okay, I'm gonna be a great cheerleader. And part of that is communication, absolutely. But I think once you're on the coaching side, it becomes like management of players as best you can, setting up the team to be as successful as possible, knowing every single intricate detail of the team. Because as players, you see a 10-minute scouting report, or you have the option to go pull some clips of a Marta or an opponent that you might be marking or supposed to be marking out of a game, right? And so it's going, okay, this is what we're showing the players, but man, what happened to get to this point to make it that succinct is a piece that like you just don't understand how much actually goes into that, the time spent. And then I think just like the relationship piece is so huge. And I think coaches are all different in terms of how the importance they put on that. But man, if they know as a coaching staff, that they as a staff, we believe in you, whether you're playing for 5 minutes or 90 minutes or 120 minutes, like that goes such a long way. So I think I have learned so much, and it's been cool to be on both sides of it. Absolutely. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. Boxy, T, thanks so much for being here, spending time. It was awesome.
It was really fun.
I mean, I feel like the preview for this World Cup, for at least Portland fans, is incredible. Yeah. It's awesome. It's great. That's all for episode 14 of Sport Oregon Voices. We hope you'll follow the U.S. Women's National Team over the next month as they look to win their 3rd straight World Cup, which would be so awesome. Join us next Friday, July 21st, for a watch party in the middle of Pioneer Courthouse Square in downtown Portland as the U.S. opens World Cup play against Vietnam at 6 p.m. Our friends at the Sports Bra will be serving food and drinks, and admission is free. You gotta love that. Come on out, support the red, white, and blue, and let's show the world what Soccer City USA is all about.